And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I'm Warren. Welcome. It is Thursday. It's time to check back on the events of what happened on last night's Dynamite. Last night being Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. I swear, like, time has no bearing on me. It's a completely meaningless construct. I swear to God, it never sticks. It never sticks. I never know what day it is until I have to check my phone or whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's try to not go off track too much today. But hey, if you're here and you're watching right now, why don't you leave a like here on this video to begin with? That would be tremendous. Also, subscribe to the channel. I know there's a lot of people. I know there's a lot of you out there. I know this. There's a lot of you out there who watch these videos and come back to watch more, right? Like return to watch these reviews, but you're not subscribed to the channel. So what are you waiting for? What more do I have to do? What more do I have to do? You know, I feel like I bought you chocolates. I've taken you out to dinner. What more do I have to do for you to go all the way and subscribe? I'm at my wit's end. No, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I mean, that would be great. And hit the bell gimmick while you're at it too. And that way you'll never, ever miss a thing. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, thank you very much, by the way. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 5-star ratings on Spotify help out a great deal. So there you go. And well, you know, we might as well get into the show. We might as well start talking about it. This show again that happened on November 5th, 2025. That happened in Houston, Texas, at the Bayou Music Center. I was not aware that there were bayous in Texas. I feel like the bayou isn't that like it's like a Louisiana thing, right? It's maybe Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, maybe, you know. But I feel like, to me, when you use the word bayou, and I do not think of Texas. Like the state of Texas does not associate with bayou to me, you know. It's kind of like, you know, if you talk about cold states, you know, like, you know, weather-wise. Well, I don't think of California, you know. I'll think of Minnesota. That'll be the first one that comes to mind. I don't know. Is it just me? Are there parts of Texas geography that I'm not aware of? And that makes that you're like, no, Warren, there's actually like this huge strip of wetland, you know, marshes that exists in Texas, but I find that hard to believe. Look, what do I know? I could, you know, maybe someone is screaming at me right now, you know, say, Warren, you ignorant bitch. There are tons of bayous in Texas. You have no idea. You have no idea what you're talking about. You know, leave your home once in a while. Like, educate yourself. Pull up a Wikipedia page. You like the Wikipedia? You know, maybe. I'm definitely not saying you're wrong when you're calling me a stupid bitch. 1,348 tickets were distributed for this show. For all intents and purposes, this was a sellout. Everything that was available on the map was sold. So good for AEW. We're also going to pump the brakes a little bit. Like, we didn't fill out the United Center here. Like, you know, it's still, you know, under 2,000 people were attended the show, but, you know, sold out. So, I mean, it's good. Like, the AEW should be selling out, you know, 1,300 seat venues. They should be selling those out. So, okay, that makes sense to me. They should. Anyway, we just got to point that out here. Yeah, I have nothing more really to add on that point. Let's just get to the show itself proper and talk about all the happenings, all the haps. I guess the big news, if we're starting with a lead, I guess the big news is that AEW will be introducing a new singles title for the men's division called the National Title. So this was done via an in-ring segment where Tony Schiavone basically announces it, right? Says, for the first time in decades, there will be a national title on the TBS network. And I'm like, okay. Well, we'll get to that in a second. And then he proceeds to say that the winner, the inaugural champion, will be decided via Casino Battle Royal at Full Gear. And that he welcomes at this time the two first participants in the Battle Royal, Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. And they come out accompanied, of course, by MVP. And MVP cuts a promo basically, sort of botching the announcement, calling it the international title, and stammering over, names over wrestler names, Nikita Koloff. He's out there doing his best Warren Hayes impression when he should have been on point and completely clear and concise and not stammering over words. Yeah, so this is something I think caught a lot of people by surprise. I think it's something that a lot of folks were not. I don't know anyone who was expecting this, as opposed to the women's tag titles, which I myself had talked about on multiple occasions and saying, basically telling you what I had heard, and that being that the titles are ready, the titles are made, like they exist, and Tony has them, and it's all a question of when does Tony want to bring the titles in. That was essentially it, right? I don't think anyone was expecting a new men's singles title. If you did, you are prescient. Perhaps I could enlist your assistance in picking the next Powerball numbers. Anyway, first and foremost, I am not getting into a discussion about too many titles. I don't think that's the case in AEW. The amount of titles in AEW does not bother me. What do we have? On the men's side, right? We have the World's Championship, the men's World Championship. We have the unified title. We have the TNT title. We have the tag team titles and the trios titles. What am I forgetting? That's it, right? 5 titles, which would be 6 then with the national title, right? And then on the women's side, you just have you have the 3 titles. You have the women's championship. You have the TBS title, and you have the tag team titles. I mean, that's like 9 titles. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know what anyone's getting upset about. I don't think people are questioning the right things. I don't think people are asking the right questions here if all we're arguing about is the number of titles this promotion has. No, I don't give a shit. I don't think it's too many titles. I think there are promotions who have too many titles. I don't have to bring them up. You can come up with all of that in your brain all by yourself without any question. So yeah, I don't think that's what we should be discussing. I think what we should be discussing is, what is this title for? Tony Khan, when he made the announcement on social media a few minutes before Dynamite started, said that the title was going to be defended in basically all of the partner promotions, plus like Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor is not a partner promotion. But he said he'd be defended in New Japan and CMLL, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So is this going to be like a joint title, like something that all the partners are going to support in one way or another? And yeah, it turns out probably not, because the title is going to be officially branded as an AEW title, and they didn't even mention the fact that it will be defended elsewhere during the segment. Tony didn't mention it. MVP definitely, he alluded to it, but the partner promotions were not mentioned by name. So I think like a lot of the allure of that title, or at least its raison d'être, is put into question. I remember when the All Atlantic title was created, Tony Khan specifically said, like, this is going to be a title that we're going to defend, like, across the world, in Japan and in Europe and so on and so forth. And then quickly everyone started making fun of the idea of calling it an all-Atlantic title if you're going to defend it in Japan. But, we don't have to relitigate that. All the jokes have been done. You can just rememorate your favorites at this point. So I felt like this is what we were going to do with this title, that we were going to go back to those roots. It's almost as if Tony regretted, removing that aspect of the All-Atlantic title, and now is going to bring it back in this new national title, which because he also mentioned on the U.S. Indies. I forgot to say that. He also said that it's going to be defended on the U.S. Indies. So he clearly wants to see this as a traveling title, right? But it wasn't communicated as such. It wasn't conveyed to us as such. So I'm kind of sitting here wondering what this title is for. I say recently, but some time ago, Hiroshi Tanahashi had a press conference, after his first few months as being president of New Japan, and listed a bunch of things, a bunch of points that he needed to change. He felt needed some change, and one of those points was there are too many titles, and the problem with the titles is that people don't understand what they're for, so we're going to be rejiggering all of that, right? And one of the things that he did was get rid of the King of Pro Wrestling title. So if I apply that type of logic over here, it's like, what is this title for? What is it for? The Unified Championship, we get it. We understand what it is, and we understand what it's for. It's essentially, it's the Continental Classic crown. It has that aspect to it. Yes, it can be defended throughout the year, but one time of year, once per year, this title is completely up for grabs in a tournament. That's its twist. The TNT title is just like the TBS title are TV titles, right? They should be defended on TV on a regular basis. That technically was what a TV title is, but that's nonetheless their business. That's what they're for. I don't know what I don't know what we want to accomplish with this specific belt. I don't know what it's for. I don't know why we feel like we need to introduce it. I don't know what it's for. And I'm very curious because the way, like I said, it wasn't presented in a way where it was going to be a traveling title, but it was rather introduced to us as, like Tony said, a connection to the old NWA national title. That's essentially what they were going for here, because that's pretty much what they look. You can say insinuated, but holy smokes, that's a lot. That was a lot more than some insinuation. Like, they went really hard on explaining, on saying, like, this title is going to be defended in the spirit of those who held it previously, like Paul Orndorff and Nikita Koloff, Dusty Rhodes, Wahoo McDaniel, so on and so forth. And I found that extremely strange. I found that really, really weird, because the NWA national title is still active today. It's not a retired belt. It is, Billy Corgan brought it back. Corgan has the title that has the lineage of with the Orndorffs and the Rhodeses and the McDanielses and so on and so forth, right? You get the picture. So I'm not quite sure I understand what they're trying to accomplish here. And, I've seen comments from NWA wrestlers like Mike Mondo, who is the new champion. Well, I say new champion. He's had the championship since August, but his defense has just aired on TV like recently. Anyway, that's a whole other 9 yards. But he's basically he's basically saying, I don't know, there's only one real national champion, and it's me. And I'm like, well, he's not wrong, but why is he getting involved? Like, who cares, really? Now, what I have heard is that apparently this is a bit of a messy situation. And honestly, that's all I know. I don't know what that means. There's There will be very likely details that will come to light, but this national title business is likely linked to something. Apparently it's a little messy, and I have no details to offer. I don't know what exactly all this mess is, other than being told, yeah, it's messy. Okay, well, I'm sure these things are going to come out sooner than later, but yeah, I'm just having trouble wrapping my head around the necessity for this title and what it's going to bring to the table that is going to be different. And look, Tony may say, the All Atlanta, or not the national title is going to be defended everywhere, and it's going to be defended in the other promotions and whatnot. But this could be all talk. This legitimately could just be all just all talk, and it could end up just meaning, jack shit. It could end up just being nothing but words and nothing significant happening moving forward, So I think what folks should be focused on, more so than the number of titles, is more like, well, what is this title for? And will it indeed, look at this. This is speaking of messy, right? Will this title stick to its promise of being something that is going to be defended, in other promotions and in the indies and whatnot? Will it be a traveling championship? Personally, look, I think AEW's decision to go nice and lean on its titles was a good idea. I endorse the unified championship situation. Getting rid of the FTW championship, retiring that was also a very good idea. Just keep it as streamlined as possible, right? But I don't mind the addition of another title if it makes sense, if it has a reason to exist. And if its reason to exist is to be a traveling title, well, good. But it better fucking travel. It better go elsewhere. It better be won by people outside of AEW as well. Like if you say, we're going to go defend it in CMLL, and you go to Arena Mexico with the national title, and no one in CMLL ever wins the fucking belt, then what's the point? If you're like, we're going to go on the indies and defend it, and no one on the indies ever wins it, again, what is the fucking point? I don't know. It's still very early in the situation, but that's my main takeaway. My main takeaway is that I don't understand I don't understand why we feel like, when I say why Tony Khan feels like the company needs another singles title for the men. I don't understand why he's presenting it as part of some lineage of a title of from another promotion that is still very much alive and being defended in 2025. I don't understand why he did that. If it's meant to be a traveling title, well, you have to stick to it, and I'm not convinced AEW will be able to do that. And the introduction was botched. I thought MVP did a poor job putting it over. We didn't even see a belt. There's no reason to hide the belt. Oh, and it's going to be the inaugural champion is going to be decided in a battle royal, a casino gauntlet battle royal, which we hadn't seen in a while. And frankly, I was okay with that. But look, they're bringing it back for the. I think that stinks. I think it stinks. I think I think deciding champions in battle royals is kind of silly. I think it kind of defeats the purpose. You're not building someone within that, right? Now I understand that there's a tournament going on right now. There's a tournament going on right now with the women for the tag team titles that you probably want to keep the focus on and don't want to run another tournament parallel to that leading into Full Gear. I can get that. Between let's say you were to run that tournament for the national title, the women's tag team title tournament, and then you have blood and guts on top of that. It's like, oh, brother, okay, like that. Like, I understand there's only so much TV time you have and so many weeks before we get to Full Gear, which is like, what, 3 at this point? So I can understand the decision of going, nah, fuck it, we're not going to do that. But then you could wait. You waited so fucking long for the tag team titles. What's the rush here? Why are we rushing into this? Because it does feel rushed. It feels like it's just like, oh, let's do this. Look, we got a new title and so on and so forth. I'm like, what's the rush? And it'd probably only go to 2026, right? Because after Full Gear, we're going to be in Continental Classic terrain. So we can absolutely wait till next year, right? I don't know. What's the rush? No one's clamoring for it. No one's expecting it. Like I said, it comes out of nowhere. I don't know. I just don't like the idea of the Battle Royal. I think it's cheap. I think it's kind of dumb. You could have had just a mini tournament. You just like set up like you have a very simple setup. You know, your quarters, your semis, your finals. That's it. Build someone up. Get some anticipation. This all feels very. I don't know. I feel we're rushing this for a reason. For some reason we're rushing this. And I feel like it's going to be to the detriment of the title and whoever ends up winning it first, right? It's not going to feel anything special or spectacular. It's just going to be a thing. I may also be super wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. Doesn't happen very often. But we'll see how it goes. Let's go to this show then. A show that I thought represents my feelings about, like, this was another embodiment of my feelings regarding AEW these days where, you know, the wrestling is really good. What you sit down to watch, the wrestling is really good, but there's no spark. There's no, I don't want to say no life to it. That wouldn't be, it's spark. It doesn't feel inspired. There's no, everything feels flat. There you go. Things feel flat in AEW. Not as exciting as it has been or it could be. And I know there's going to be tons of people who are going to, who can counteract the criticism and saying, well, Warren, it's very good. I'm enjoying myself. And I'm glad you are. But, again, as someone who sits down to criticize, I gotta call what I see. I gotta tell you the principle of doing this is to tell you how it made me feel and try to argue and explain as clearly as possible why I'm feeling this way in regards to, this wrestling show. Because the wrestling is good, fine, good. We had some good matches on this show. But everything just like, there's no life to it. No. That's not, I really don't want to use that. No. There's no spark. There's just no spark to AEW these days. And I don't know what the thing is. I don't know why it's not clicking, because all the elements are there, but it's just not like hitting on all cylinders. So we get the opening angle where Tony Schiavone comes out to do initially the introduction, the presentation of the national title, but he gets interrupted by the Ops, and Samoa Joe, he basically tells them, there's consequences to your actions, and your actions specifically was you getting involved in me and Hangman's business by doing the little cosplay thing that you did last week, which I enjoyed, by the way. I thought that was cleverly done. But then security runs in before any physicality can happen to protect Tony Schiavone, and Samoa Joe's like, just more bodies to beat up. I don't give a shit. Look, Tony, you take your beating like a man, because look at what's going to happen here. There's just more people are going to get hurt because of you. Then Hangman Adam Page runs in for the save. The Ops back off. But then Hangman Adam Page runs in for the save, and the numbers game is still against him. So Eddie Kingston and Hook run in to have the Ops back off, and then Hook challenges the Ops for the trios titles on behalf of all of himself and the other two men that are in the ring with him. And Joe gets really, really angry at that. Is like, at the idea that Hook is challenging him. That really triggers him, and you can see the response. Hangman and Eddie are like, we got him. Look how gotten this guy is right now. Very interesting that in this little segment here where we had people promo, you had the Hangman promo, you had the Hook promo, but you didn't let Eddie Kingston promo. I swear to God, this Eddie Kingston return is so weird. It is so incredibly strange. I don't know why Eddie Kingston returns from injury and he's not given like 7 minutes of mic time. 7 might be a lot, but you know what I mean? Or he's not given any proper mic time to do what legitimately he does best, and that is talk people into the building. Anyway, no, I probably would have gotten more excited at the main event if Eddie had been the guy to give us the hard sell on it, as opposed to Hook, where, Hook is Hook. Claudio Castagnoli defeated Orange Cassidy in the first Blood and Guts advantage match. Didn't talk about the advantage matches. I enjoy that. I think it's fun. I think that's a nice little twist. Where instead of having one match to decide who gets the advantage, you have a little best of series, right? You get a 2 out of 3 wins type of situation. And I like it. I really, really don't hate this idea. I think this is a very, very good idea. And Claudio Castagnoli here got the win for Team Death Riders. So they were up 1-0 in for the advantage for the Blood and Guts in a really good match. I thought this was a lot of fun. I thought it was very, very good, smartly put together. The idea here that Claudio was just so impossibly strong, right? And is just, he's picking up Orange Cassidy like it's nothing. He's just carrying him around in the suplex position, going up some stairs, pulling him up by the seat of his pants. Like just nothing but fantastic visuals. Whereas Orange is trying his best to get his little moves in. And the thing here with Orange Cassidy, if you have been paying attention to his AEW career even remotely, is that it doesn't matter who he's fighting, because he is not above being sneaky to win, and oftentimes wins via the mousetrap pin, or like other little schemes that'll help him get a win over faster. So even if Claudio was very dominant in this very good match and just looked like $1 million, I was sitting there going, Orange might pull it off, because it's Orange Cassidy, because that's his shtick. That's what he does. Claudio does the pop-up uppercut for the win, and like I said, that gives the Death Riders the advantage here, 1-0. A very good match to start the show. I thought this was to start the show after the initial segment that started the show. This was a very good first match. We go backstage where Mark Briscoe is there with Kyle Fletcher and Don Callis, along with Renee Paquette, who says, thank you everyone for agreeing to non-physicality here, but we got to talk about something. And Briscoe basically tells Kyle Fletcher, look, I challenged you to a TNT title match. You haven't said shit. So why don't we make this a no disqualification TNT title match at Full Gear? Don Callis ups the stakes and says, if you lose, you are going to join the Don Callis family. And Briscoe accepts, and basically saying you're going to leave your goofball, your goofball conglomeration friends behind, and you're going to come join our family. And Briscoe's like, all right, I'm going to do that. That's fine. And so the match is set. It's going to be a no disqualification for Full Gear. Look, what do you do with Mark Briscoe at this point? He has to win at Full Gear, I think. I think it. I think someone in this company is realizing that with all these people gone, we need to elevate people who are ready to be elevated to the next level. And I think Kyle Fletcher is more than ready. I think he's going to be losing up in this circumstance. Mark Briscoe has to win a big one. Or at the very least, I am not into a gimmick where Mark Briscoe is part of a group that he doesn't want to be a part of. Like, those things don't make sense. It never makes sense to me when a heel group says, well, if you lose, you join my crew, as if it's some kind of punishment. Like, it doesn't work. Those stipulations have never worked for me. They don't make sense, I find. Then we have another backstage segment. Mushmouth Hayes here. How you doing? With the Young Bucks and the Don Callis family again. The Bucks are unsure about joining the Don Callis family, and then the whole Don Callis family crew comes out, patting them on the back and say, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, we're a family. We're and they even bring in Kazuchika Okada and said, "Look, it's your old pal Kazu here, right?" And Okada stands there as everyone leaves and basically tells them, "Don't wait, don't take too long." Does one of those. Don't take too long. Like, all right. Is this how we're reuniting the Elite? Well, I don't know. Probably, right? Probably. But I enjoy the heel Bucks so much more than the babyface Bucks. It's preposterous. To me, it's like it's night and day. It's two entirely different teams. Do I want the Elite reunited? No, I kind of want shit heel Bucks moving forward. That's where they're at their best. Anyway. Then we had a match in the first round of the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championship Tournament, where the Babes of Wrath, Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron, defeat Athena and Mercedes Moné. In a good match. I mean, look, this had to be a good match. You had three outstanding professional wrestlers in this match, and then you had Harley Cameron, who, no disrespect to Harley, she's just not on the level of the three other women who are in this match, but she held it together. She looked fine. There's the one thing though that I don't understand when Athena did that power move where she did the combination sack of shit Samoan drop thing with Willow on her shoulders and then tossing Harley over. Harley sort of got into her arms. I like that looked kind of weird. I don't know exactly. Like Harley basically just like positioned herself to go into Athena's arms. I don't know what happened there. It just looked a little weird. There was the double head scissors too by Harley where it looked fine, but I don't think it like properly connected. Look, I'm nitpicking. This was good. This was very good. And my prediction kind of came through true, where Mercedes Moné was not moving forward in this tournament because she already had a defense of the TBS title set up at full. Not a defense. Excuse me. Where she's challenging for the world championship at Full Gear. So that was a tip off to me, and I was like, well, it would make sense for Athena, for Willow and Harley to move forward, especially after Julia Hart and Sky Blue move forward, and they're a heel team. You get a babyface team, so I don't know. I kind of saw it coming. Athena loses again in AEW, loses another big match in AEW. And I mean, look, I've theorized this in the past. The idea here, I believe, is that Athena is, even though she's this dominant Ring of Honor champion, she like her shtick right now is that she's clearly better than everyone else in Ring of Honor, but not as good to hang with the top stars of AEW. So she's in this zone where she's a main eventer in Ring of Honor, but she's, a mid-carder in AEW. She's, and that's just how it goes. Because every time she's come in to AEW to wrestle, the names, like she did with Mercedes Moné in the Owen Hart tournament, like she did with Toni Storm, she loses. She loses every time. She can't win the big ones in AEW, not against the top talent. That's her thing. Then we had the announcement for the AEW National Championship that occurred. The only thing that's left to mention is that Ricochet and The Demand came out, and Ricochet basically said, I'm throwing my hat into this battle royal and I'm going to win it. And then we have a tense standoff. And I was thinking, you know what, Ricochet would actually be, look, if the title is indeed going to be a traveling title, I think you couldn't get a better dude to do it than Ricochet. He's a guy who's known in Japan, a guy who can hang with the luchadors, a guy who can work anywhere, any style with anyone. It would be part of his story that he set himself up earlier this year, saying by the end of the year, I'm winning AEW Gold. Right now, I can't think of a better. We'll see who gets thrown into this tournament. Not this tournament. This Casino Gauntlet match. But I think he's probably the best position to do so. I think I said it was the Battle Royal, right? Did I say it was a Battle Royal earlier? And I retcon that part. I'm not going back and changing the tape. Just retcon that. I know there was a difference. I probably had a brain fart there. But it's the gauntlet match and so on and so forth, right? So look, we'll keep an eye on all of this moving forward, of course. But I think as it stands right now, Ricochet would be an excellent addition, an excellent initial champion for this. Then we have a segment with Jurassic Express backstage, and they're stabbing dollar bills. I don't know. I don't know. This has not actually been a very inspired return, if you ask me, so far. Darby Allin won the second Blood and Guts advantage match by defeating Daniel Garcia, tying the series at 1-1. I like this a lot. I thought this was a blast. Hard grappling match with a lot of reversals and in and outs, and it also gets brutal, when Danny traps Darby's skull between the ring apron, like the post at the bottom and the steel stairs, and he crushes his skull with the stairs and forces Darby to bleed. You get Pac, who interferes, who takes out Darby while the referee is distracted, and then we get a fight back in the ring that has Garcia strap on the sharpshooter or the dragon tamer, I guess, and Darby gets out of that, does the scorpion deathlock on him. They're all sharpshooters, and Garcia submits. I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. If the only issue here is that it was very clear who was going to win in this circumstance, and I think that maybe takes away from the drama of the advantage matches, I guess, because it was very clear that Darby was going to win here, which probably telegraphed the finish to Claudio and Orange Cassidy. So maybe that made things a little less interesting, but this was a good match nonetheless. Now it's up to, I believe it's Mox versus Roderick Strong, right? It's Mox versus Roderick Strong to break the tie and see who gets the advantage. That's going to be happening on Collision. And, I wouldn't necessarily put Mox in as a shoe-in here, because right now, he has issues with quitting and submission moves, so they might lean into this. They've been setting the ground with Kyle O'Reilly. This might all come to a head with Roderick Strong then. And then after the match, we get a big schmoz, to heat up the blood and guts match next week. Conglomerations out there, Death Riders, etc. That's fine. We get FTR that come to the ring for an in-ring promo. They call out Brodito, and then they go talk to Brodito's family, who are ringside again. The grandmother is there once again, and Dax does his bit where he asks questions, passes the microphone over to the person he's asking the question to for a response, but then pulls it back and then says some very disparaging things. I thought that was really good because I thought this was really good because the grandmother is not a worker. I don't know. Of course she was briefed on this, right? I'm not saying that she came in completely blind, but she's not a worker. So she's not like doing faces or whatnot. She's kind of like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? She's just got very normal, average response. The facial expression is just like, all right, whatever, And Gravity is there as well. At some point, he has enough of Dax insulting his family, because of course Gravity is Bandito's brother, and then so that turns into a brawl. Where is Brodito in the meantime? Before we get to this brawl, they've been locked in. They've been locked in their locker room. Clearly it's Stokely Hathaway is there insinuating that he's the guy who locked the door, as he has his he's watching The Wire on his phone, which is available on HBO Max. And but as the brawl with Gravity begins, we have the visual of Brody King smashing through the wall next to the door and choking out Stokely in a classic Stokely moment. And look, I thought this was fun. Okay, sometimes it's hokey, sometimes it's well done. I thought this was a well done use of the fake wall and whatnot. I didn't see it coming. They got me on that one, and I thought it was clever. And then Brodito eventually do make their way down to the ring to save Gravity. FTR fantastic in this role. I hope they never are baby faces ever fucking again. They are too good. It's legitimately tremendous stuff. The first of the advantage matches for Blood and Guts, for the women's Blood and Guts, happened, where Megan Bayne defeated Mina Shirakawa. She being Megan Bayne was originally supposed to fight Queen Aminata, but it was revealed that Queen Aminata got injured last week and is not medically cleared to compete, not only for this match, but for the Blood and Guts match as well, which stinks. I think that's a bummer. I think Mina Shirakawa in the match is a downgrade because Aminata has natural aggression to her. She was a perfect fit for this. Mina, not so sure. Anyway, this was fine. I really don't have much to add. Toni Storm was on commentary, and then Marina Shafir out of nowhere shows up and attacks Toni Storm, and that kind of distracts Mina, and it allows Bayne to get the upper hand at the very least to hit a running Liger Bomb for the win, which is a tremendous finish for her. I think I like it better than her F5 or whatever the fuck she calls it, the wisdom of the gods, or what is it? I don't remember what, but it's something like that, right? It's like the Olympian disgrace or something like that. I don't remember what it's called. But this running Liger Bomb for Megan Bayne is really, and I feel like Megan Bayne has improved tremendously in most aspects since she debuted last year. I think she's really become more comfortable on television. I think her work has become better. I think her promos have become better. Like she's not fucking Eddie Kingston here. Phrasing, that sounded weird. She's not as good as Eddie Kingston. I'm not comparing. I'm not saying she's a great promo like Eddie Kingston, but she's been improving. There's still work to do, but she is indeed better. I think she's been better in a lot of aspects. Anyway, after the match, there's the required schmoz where all the women come out to add some heat for the Blood and Guts match. Mercedes Moné also hits the ramp, runs down, but she gets to ringside and she's like, yeah, you know what? No, I'm not doing this. Smart girl. But Chris Statlander shows up behind her and decides to beat her up and add a little fuel to their situation there. So yeah, a fine little match, good little angle, but it's all right. And then we had the main event where the Ops retained the trios titles against Hangman, Eddie Kingston, and Hook. This was good. I think it's one of these, I don't know, like these gentlemen's three type of situations, where it's like it's not entirely bad, but I feel like it could have been better. There's just like, the spark isn't quite there. There you go, So I'm looking at this and it's all right. I guess the big talking point coming out of this match is that Hobbs and Hangman fought up the ramp at some point, and Hobbs did the world's strongest slam off the stage through a table on the floor, which will then set up a match between Hangman and Hobbs next week at the Blood and Guts show. So I thought that was a nice little clever way to make that happen, because of course, like we always say these days, there are so many stories in AEW. You can't have a match without a story. And Hook taps out. Yeah, I mean that it is what it is, right? I feel like in this main event, the two guys who could have generated the most heat, which were Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston, were not really given any time to really shine here, and especially Eddie in the opener. You just could have given him a mic, and he would have given us all the reasons to be psyched for this match. It just felt like it's happening. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't hate this episode. I don't want to give you the impression that it's like, oh, this sucked. But my issues with Dynamite recently are that it's not exciting. And for a promotion that delivers systematically fantastic pay-per-views, right? Where you sit down, you watch one of their pay-per-views and like, man, it won't get any better than this year. And then, the next month's pay-per-view is another tremendous one. I was like, man, it's not going to get better than this. And then the next one is tremendous. It's crazy that they can't get their shit together for the weekly pay-per-views and just use that energy or whatever drives the pay-per-views doesn't trickle down onto the weekly TV. And look, there's a bunch of reasons. You can point to a bunch of reasons, but I think they're mostly excuses other than reasons. There's really no excuse for this, for the weekly TV to be this listless, especially when we know they can do really hot fucking things, because you just have to go back to the build to All In and see and know. It's like, okay, no, when this company decides that it's firing on all cylinders, I think it could be virtually unstoppable. But in these types of situations, I'm like, well, there's just like stuff happening, good matches, but there's no bite to it. And that's going to be a problem with Blood and Guts next week, that there's no bites to these feuds that are happening in the cage. Anyway, I talked about that at length already on stream this week and on the podcast. So if you want to listen to my thoughts on how undeserved I find the Blood and Guts matches are for both teams involved, all four teams involved in their separate matches, go listen to that. Go listen to this week's Mr. Warren Hayes show. It's on the podcast. I go over everything right there, so go check it out. You might as well go now, because this review is over. We're done. Thank you very much for listening. If you're listening to this on Thursday, I'll be back later on for a live stream. Where we'll talk about all sorts of other wonderful things. So there you go. That does it for now. Thank you all for listening, for watching. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me. And I will see you next time.